Who is your MVP right now? Dominique, we'll start with you. Harden or LeBron?
I mean, I think it's Harden. It's hard to, excuse me, this award, and Mina knows this, we talk about MVP a lot on our show when it comes to football or NBA or anything, is
right.
The MVP is a nebulous word that allows us to make many different type of arguments, and that's good for the sport. But I think the truest form of the MVP, if you're being honest about who gets the MVP, it's about story. It's about narrative. That's why Russ got the MVP last year. Russ was tremendous, and he got the MVP in part because we were like, look what he's doing after KD is gone, and everyone was all mad at KD, so we gave him the award for that. And this year, I feel like, last year you could have given it to Harden. This year, I feel like it's about what they're doing over there, the story around building a team that's taking on, that can legitimately take on the Golden State Warriors. So I think if you follow that model, the model that we followed historically, then you give it to James Harden. If you're looking to upend the model and go with, we just give it to the best player in the NBA, then we give it to LeBron James every single year. Although there are plenty of statistical arguments that could cut in the other direction that support James Harden over LeBron James.
By the standard established last year with Russell Westbrook, where wins matter less, it's more about the individual, the most valuable player who's lifting up his entire team. It is undeniably LeBron James this year, by that standard. Okay, I think it's a very close case. But if we're talking about value, not who's the best player, because you're right, Dominique, the way we discuss this award changes every time. The definition is very elusive. But by that standard we established with Russell Westbrook, it should be LeBron James. I mean, look at his squad. Look what he's done with them. Look how far he's carried them. And statistically, he has a case as well. I mean, this is going to be the first season where he's played the entire season. He's played more minutes than Harden. Number one in points, number two in assists, number one or two in value over replacement player. He has the case, and he's carried his team as well.
There are numbers on the other side. And so how far he's taken them is to what looks like it's going to be a number 3 seed in the East that you guys said earlier that you don't really respect. Harden's taken his team to number 1 in the West, which you guys think is the better conference. So that's something there. And Harden, you could argue what LeBron means to his team, but Harden's usage numbers are way over LeBron's. Harden, this will surprise you, Harden's defensive efficiency rating higher than LeBron's.
Yeah,
Harden's points per game higher than LeBron. Harden's player efficiency rating higher than LeBron's. Harden's net rating higher than LeBron. So if you want to go to stats route, I think there are plenty of stats. I think that usage number specifically is very important because I think the story is Harden is depending in part on Chris Paul and some of those other guys supporting.
Right.
That doesn't account for the fact that his usage number is significantly higher than LeBron James's.
I have to, okay, I get to break the tie. I don't have to.
Please don't pick me. Please don't pick me.
Sorry, Dominique. You're right on this one.
That means I'm wrong.
No, first of all, let's just do away with the numbers for a second. Mina, LeBron has incredibly impressive numbers that lend to his case for MVP.
Sure.
But so does James Harden. And,
sure.
and Dominique points out, I mean, net rating, if you really want to focus in on just one, you want to throw out points per game, you want to throw out some of those, it's really the defensive difference. It's that James Harden, shockingly, is playing over the course of a season better defense than LeBron James is. That doesn't mean he's going to do it in the playoffs. That doesn't mean he does it in in any single given moment, by the way, I would take LeBron on defense over James Harden. But we're rewarding a season's body of work. And the hard thing is, definitions, look, nobody wants to sit here and have a Webster's dictionary debate about what MVP means. I know what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean best player on best team. It honestly also doesn't mean biggest impact on your team. We can play that game. If you take LeBron off the Cavs, what are they? If you take Harden off the Rockets, what are they? It honestly isn't that. History's proven it. If it were that, LeBron's would be the MVP every year. Instead, we've seen Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, Russell Westbrook all win the MVP. So what is it? It's okay that it's amorphous. And at some point, I think you have to reward a guy for his team's accomplishment. He contributed to it. For the first time in, 3 years, James Harden has led a team that we say, you know what? The Warriors are vulnerable this year.
Did you think he should be the MVP last year too, Will?
I didn't think Russell Westbrook should be. I think James
so
Harden.
At least you're consistent then.
Yes.
Because,
I mean, I think I am also consistent in that what we're talking about is not the most valuable player. We're talking about the protagonist for the season. And it seems like the storyline around James Harden this season is more compelling than any other storyline around anybody else, and he has the stats to back it up. And like I mentioned last year, it was the storyline around Westbrook minus KD. And sometimes that storyline is around LeBron and what he's able to do with their team. It just doesn't fit this year. If he doesn't win based on the statistics and he doesn't win based on the storyline, I'm not sure how you give give it to him, although, like, obviously, he's the best player in the league when he wants to be.
Dominique, I don't think it's about storyline. I think that makes it a little too simplistic that we just kind of like what we get entranced by. I think it's a combination of who you are as an individual that shows up in stats and what your team does with you as the leader of that team. And I do think LeBron, every time you do this, it's like, oh, you hate LeBron, because if you don't just give 100% marks to LeBron James, you must be a hater. But he has to have some responsibility for the team's struggles this year in Cleveland, whether it means changing players in and out, whether it means trying to integrate new guys. There have been ups and downs, and that can't be a net positive for LeBron this year, Mina.